Dead narrator twist. Sunset Boulevard. A corpse narrating his own murder wasn't just unexpected, it was unheard of in 1950. In Sunset Boulevard, Billy Wilder opened with Joe Gillis, played by William Holden, floating lifeless in a pool while calmly recounting how he ended up there. The twist? He's already dead and the story unfolds from beyond the grave. This bold narrative move nearly didn't make it to theaters. According to film historians, early test screenings of the original version, featuring corpses chatting in a morgue, reportedly triggered laughter, not suspense. Paramount executives were rattled. Fearing the tone had veered into unintentional comedy, Wilder and co-writer Charles Brackett scrapped the morgue sequence and replaced it with the now iconic pool shot, anchoring the narration in Gillis's detached voiceover. Holden's delivery was key.
Maybe you'd like to hear the facts, the whole truth. If so, you've come to the right party.
His flat, emotionless tone amplified the film's bleak critique of Hollywood's illusions. As Roger Ebert later observed, it sounded like a man who'd already given up. The structure itself broke rules. Non-linear, fatalistic, and centered on a protagonist who doesn't survive past the opening scene. It was a storytelling gamble that paid off, influencing decades of films that followed. Several analysts suggest that Wilder's decision to linger on Gillis's floating body for nearly a full minute was more than just dramatic flair. They interpret it as a subtle jab at Hollywood's obsession with appearances, suggesting even in death, image is everything. Whether intended or not, the shot became one of the most haunting in cinema history. That sequence wasn't just a jolt, it was a cinematic curveball that redefined what noir could be. It dared to ask, what happens when the story starts after the end? The line that broke the silence, Anna Christie. In 1930, a single sentence changed the trajectory of one of cinema's most enigmatic stars. Greta Garbo, known for her haunting silence in the silent era, finally spoke on screen in Anna Christie. The line, "Gimme a whiskey, ginger ale on the side, and don't be stingy, baby."
Give me a whiskey, ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby.
Delivered in a husky, unpolished drawl, it wasn't just unexpected, it was electrifying. Audiences had never heard her vocal presence. Studios had delayed her transition to sound, fearing her Swedish accent might clash with American expectations. But MGM saw an opportunity. The studio launched an aggressive campaign built around just 2 words, Garbo talks. It was a gamble, but one that paid off instantly. That utterance became a cultural lightning bolt, echoed in theaters and parodied in vaudeville. The scene itself is unassuming. Garbo walks into a dingy waterfront bar, slumps into a chair, and orders a drink. But that moment carried the weight of an entire industry in flux. Many silent stars had already vanished, unable to adapt to the new medium. Garbo didn't just survive the shift, she dominated it. Critics hailed her vocal tone as intimate and magnetic, with the New York Times noting its strange, throaty quality that defied her aloof screen image. Behind the scenes, tension ran high. Biographers suggest MGM privately tested her speech patterns before committing to a sound film, unsure whether her mystique would hold. Some insiders believed Garbo herself resisted the change, fearing her accent might alienate audiences. Others speculated she was simply waiting for the right role. Either way, Anna Christie became the perfect launchpad. That production earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, and confirmed her staying power in a rapidly evolving Hollywood. But Garbo didn't play into the hype. She skipped premieres, declined interviews, and refused to comment on the film's reception. That reticence only deepened public fascination. Her voice, once a mystery, became a national obsession. Rumors swirled that her reluctance wasn't shyness, but strategy. By staying distant, she controlled her image in an industry built on overexposure. The iconic phrase that ended her quiet didn't just usher in the talkie era. It redefined what it meant to be a star in modern Hollywood. Garbo talked. Then, she disappeared back into legend. Lesbian Kiss, Morocco. In 1930, Marlene Dietrich shocked moviegoers by sporting a tuxedo and planting a kiss on another woman's lips in Joseph von Sternberg's Morocco. The fleeting but unforgettable moment took place under Hollywood's pre-code system, before the Hays Code imposed strict regulations in 1934 and blew apart preconceived limits of on-screen acceptability. Numerous film scholars maintain the kiss might have originated from Dietrich herself, possibly on the spur of the moment. Von Sternberg, known for his stylized approach and fixation on Dietrich's persona, apparently embraced the audacious idea. Regardless of its origin, it stood among the earliest same-sex kisses in a prominent American film. The reaction was explosive. The New York Times applauded Dietrich's performance, while more conservative commentators called it scandalous. The tuxedo, the kiss, the air of confidence, these elements disrupted prevailing gender norms and created a cultural ripple that persists to this day. Morocco scored commercially and netted Dietrich her sole Academy Award nomination. But controversy lingered. The scene was later cited in arguments that pushed for heavier censorship, fueling the Hays Code crackdown. Some theorized Dietrich fully understood the uproar she was courting and aimed to cement her image as a daring star. Whether impulsive or carefully orchestrated, the kiss remains a watershed in early Hollywood's narrative of rebellion. Emotional breakdown, Stromboli. When Stromboli hit theaters in February of 1950, the most jarring moment wasn't in the script. It was what audiences suspected was bleeding through it. Ingrid Bergman's character collapses in despair near a smoldering volcano, her face twisted in anguish. The emotional breakdown felt too raw, too personal, and for good reason. Rumors swirled that Bergman, pregnant with director Roberto Rossellini's child during filming, wasn't just acting. A few reviewers speculated that sequence blurred the line between performance and personal crisis. Bergman, once beloved for her roles in Casablanca and Gaslight, had been married with a child when she began her relationship with Rossellini. The affair ignited a media firestorm. In a now infamous speech on the Senate floor, Colorado Senator Edwin C. Johnson condemned her as a powerful influence for evil. Though not an official Senate action, the statement echoed across headlines and talk shows. Hollywood distanced itself. She wasn't formally blacklisted, but offers dried up fast. The production itself was grueling. Rossellini, a pioneer of Italian neorealism, insisted on filming in real locations with a minimal crew and a loosely structured script. Bergman, isolated from Hollywood and under public scrutiny, delivered a performance that some film historians argue was fueled by genuine emotional turmoil. Box office numbers in the US were disappointing and commentators were divided, but in Europe the film found more appreciation. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the scandal had ripple effects. While morality clauses had existed since the 1920s, studios began enforcing them more aggressively in the wake of the Bergman controversy. She continued working in Europe for several years, collaborating with Rossellini on multiple films. Their marriage eventually ended, but her career didn't. Bergman's return to Hollywood was marked by a Best Actress Oscar for Anastasia in 1957, and a later win for Best Supporting Actress in Murder on the Orient Express in 1975. She was also nominated for Autumn Sonata in 1979. To this day, the breakdown scene remains one of old Hollywood's most unexpected moments. Not because of its script, but because of the real-life storm that seemed to seep into every frame. Ballet Nightmare, The Red Shoes. 17 minutes of surreal ballet in full Technicolor caught audiences off guard in 1948. The Red Shoes, directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, staged a psychological breakdown cloaked as a dance sequence, something practically unheard of at the time. Based loosely on the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, the film's centerpiece was more than a performance. It was a vivid plunge into obsession. Filmed over 6 weeks with practical effects, rotating sets, and dramatic lighting, the ballet sequence blurred the line between performance space and inner turmoil. Powell described it as a dream made visible. Moira Shearer, a professional ballerina in her film debut, trained tirelessly for the role of Vicky Page. Whispers in production circles claimed the physical demands were so severe that she contemplated abandoning her film career altogether. The visuals were so stylized and fluid that a handful of viewers suspected special effects or animation had been employed. They weren't. Everything was done in camera, No optical wizardry, no post-production illusions. This devotion to authenticity only amplified the surreal impact. The film's reception was deeply divided. While some praised its bold ambition, others dismissed the extended ballet as self-indulgent. Certain reports noted British censors were uneasy with the film's darker implications, though no official intervention followed. Nevertheless, the Academy paid attention. The Red Shoes took home Oscars for Best Art Direction, Set Decoration, Color, and Best Costume Design in 1949. Its influence only grew. Martin Scorsese has cited it as one of the defining films of his life, and Brian De Palma echoed its layered psychology in his thrillers. A major restoration spearheaded by Scorsese's Film Foundation and UCLA wrapped in 2009. Years later, a 4K release reignited fascination with Powell's original production notes. The Red Shoes didn't just push boundaries, it pirouetted straight past them. And that 17-minute sequence, it remains among cinema's most jarring turns. Forced transformation, Vertigo. In Alfred Hitchcock's 1958 psychological puzzle Vertigo, one particular sequence still prompts debate. James Stewart's Scotty Ferguson compels Judy Barton, Kim Novak, to recast herself completely as the woman he once loved. Platinum hair dye, an overhauled wardrobe, and painstaking makeup forced Judy into a ghostly image of Madeleine Elster. The effect? Profoundly disturbing. Late 1950s audiences rarely witnessed a romantic lead sinking so visibly into fixation, let alone controlling another character with such force. Critics of the era were at odds, and early reviews proved muted. Over the years, though, that very moment became one of cinema's most scrutinized. Various scholars propose Hitchcock, famed for guiding his female leads with an iron hand, may have projected personal fixations into the script. Others point to rumors that Novak herself resisted the demanding emotional intensity, clashing with Hitchcock behind closed doors. Whether that's verifiable or mythical, Vertigo's coerced transformation stands as a chilling example of how deep obsession can run, and how far classic Hollywood would delve to depict it. Mirror scene, Duck Soup. In 1933, the Marx Brothers performed a nearly silent bit so precise it left audiences stunned. The now legendary mirror sequence in Duck Soup featured Groucho and Harpo Marx replicating each other's movements in uncanny synchrony, creating the illusion of a mirror with no actual glass or camera effects. No trick shots, just impeccable timing, honed during their vaudeville days. While a mirror routine had circulated on stage for ages, the Marx Brothers elevated it to cinematic lore. Their rendition wasn't mere slapstick, it brushed against the uncanny. Some cinema critics later argued it explored deeper concepts: split identity, psychological mirroring, even political lampooning. Others saw it as a mischievous nod to authority, aligning with the film's absurdist tone. It's said the brothers' theatrical background granted them an almost mechanical precision, letting them execute the bit flawlessly. One slight misstep would have exposed the ruse, but they nailed it. That moment grew so iconic that Harpo Marx and Lucille Ball revived it in a 1955 Lucy Desi Comedy Hour episode, embedding it in television's annals. Cartoons and comedies soon follow suit. Bugs Bunny, Inspector Clouseau, Bart Simpson, but none quite captured the original's quirky magic. It was a brief instant where silent comedy, psychological interplay, and biting satire merged, and against all odds it clicked. Train Tunnel Kiss, North by Northwest. In 1959, Alfred Hitchcock closed North by Northwest with a scene that still sparks debate. As Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint embrace in a sleeper car, the camera cuts to a train charging into a tunnel, an unsubtle metaphor that somehow slipped past the Hays Code. Under strict rules enforced since 1934, even implying intimacy was off limits. But Hitchcock, ever the provocateur, leaned into symbolism instead. Numerous cinematic scholars propose that the censors either missed the symbolism or chose to ignore it, as there is no record of the scene being altered. Many surmise that Hitchcock's reputation gave him leeway others couldn't dream of. Eva Marie Saint later shared that Hitchcock directed her to play the moment with a tipsy flirtatiousness. His words, like a woman who's had a few martinis. The outcome was a moment critics now hail as a masterstroke of innuendo. It wrapped a high-stakes thriller with a wink, not a bang, and helped the film rake in over $13 million at the box office. It also earned 3 Academy Award nominations and a permanent spot in film history. Today, that tunnel shot is often cited as one of old Hollywood's boldest and cleverest visual metaphors. Moon River on the Fire Escape, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Audrey Hepburn's quiet rendition of Moon River, perched on a Manhattan fire escape, became one of the most enduring visuals of early 60s cinema.
Rainbows and...
But beneath the elegance of that moment lies a creative compromise that continues to spark debate. In Truman Capote's original novella, Holly Golightly was a far more ambiguous figure, emotionally layered, materially driven, and navigating New York's post-war undercurrents in ways that didn't align with the era's moral codes. The film, constrained by the production code, softened her into a whimsical, romantic lead. Capote was disappointed by the shift. He had championed Marilyn Monroe for the role, believing she could channel Holly's vulnerability and edge. But studio executives opted for Hepburn, whose refined charm fit the sanitized vision they needed. Some speculate the casting was less about star power and more about sidestepping censorship. A more explicit portrayal of Holly's lifestyle would have risked running afoul of the censors remained active in 1961. Even the now iconic Moon River scene nearly didn't survive. Paramount executives reportedly wanted it cut, but composer Henry Mancini and lyricist Johnny Mercer pushed back hard. Mancini later called it his favorite song, and the Academy agreed. It won Best Original Song in 1962. Hepburn, not a trained singer, performed it herself, her voice delicate and unpolished, which only added to the segment's emotional weight. Critics later noted the stark contrast between Capote's gritty novella and the film's glossy reinterpretation. The dissonance sparked long-running discussions around censorship, gender politics, and how Hollywood often reshaped complex female characters into palatable archetypes. Film historian Molly Haskell once observed that the industry had a habit of turning layered women into charming enigmas, an idea that fits Holly Golightly to a T. The fire escape sequence didn't shock audiences in the traditional sense. It stunned with subtlety, masking a darker narrative under a pastel-colored dream. That quiet contradiction is what continues to turn heads decades later. Off-screen execution, The Adventures of Robin Hood. In a film packed with swashbuckling flair and technicolor spectacle, one blink-and-miss moment in 1938's The Adventures of Robin Hood stirred quiet controversy. During a tense moment at Nottingham Castle, a prisoner is led to an execution block, only for the camera to pan away just before the axe falls. No blood, no aftermath, just a reaction shot in silence. While the film never shows the act itself, the implication was bold for an era tightly policed by the Hays Code, which banned explicit violence. Several industry analysts believe the shot's survival was due to clever framing and rapid editing that danced around the censor's radar. Others point out that implied violence had been used before, but rarely in a family-friendly adventure backed by a major studio. Adding to the intrigue, rumors have long circulated that the Production Code Administration nearly flagged the scene, but ultimately passed it due to its non-graphic nature. Whether or not that internal debate ever happened, the moment remains a subtle outlier in a film otherwise known for its heroic tone. The Adventures of Robin Hood went on to become a commercial hit, earning 3 Academy Awards in 1939 for Best Art Direction, Original Score, and Film Editing. The action sequences, overseen by second unit director B. Reeves Eason and stuntman Fred Graham, pushed the envelope for choreographed combat on screen. While the off-screen execution may not have shocked in the way modern audiences expect, it quietly challenged the boundaries of what could be implied, and got away with it. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.